Hi everyone, welcome back to TekkinLife, and today we will be resuming our coding calculator series, and this video will be on the functionality of the subtraction button. So let's get into it. So our first job will be to make an if statement right here. So there's some kind of conditional that allows the code to run through a certain block of code when the subtraction button is clicked. Obviously we need a different functionality for each button. Like we did with the addition one, we said if tag is equal to 11 and operation used is false. So we're going to repeat that same format just with subtraction using its tag. So since the subtraction tag is 12, we're going to say if tag is equal to 12. And same thing, we want to add 2 ampersands and say and operation used is equal to false. And let's add closing curly bracket here. And I don't know if I mentioned this, but these two equal signs are used to check whether the statement's true or not. If I put 1, it would give me an error because I'm actually assigning it. So right here, it says left side of mutating operator isn't mutatable, meaning that I cannot change it in an if statement. I have to have 2, so it's basically checking whether that is true. Next, we want to do the same thing we did with our last operation, addition, and we're going to say if counter is equal to 0. Now, when the counter is equal to 0 in subtraction, what happens? I actually had to experiment with this before actually making this correction, but basically what happens is that, like we did for addition, if we simply just say current number is equal to current number minus result label.text, what will happen is that at the starting, current number is 0. So if you subtract something from current number, it's going to be a negative number. So on the very first operation that we click, what do we want to happen? Well, firstly, let's start by saying operation is equal to tag, because we need this no matter what. And after that, to solve those problems, what we're going to do is we're going to say current number is equal to int result label.text. Now, basically, this is here so that the current number has some type of value as we go into the equation. If it has no value and it's being subtracted from, then it's just going to result in a negative number constantly, and there will be no value to the number that keeps being updated. Basically, we just need a starting point in our equation. And now I took a different approach on this, but what I did here was I added an else statement to that if statement, and then I basically nested another if statement within this else. So what happens is that it would go through this first if statement, check if it's on its first time clicking an operation, and if not, it goes through this else statement where it actually goes through the normal operations. Okay, so what we will do here is we will say if operation is equal to 11. Now, you might be wondering, why would we need to refer to 11? 11 is the tag of addition. Well, what happens is that this else statement is going to go through whatever the past operation was. Now, since we need to update the number on the screen constantly, and we need to use all operations, we need to refer to all operations in every single block of code. Again, it might not make sense at first, like I've said many times, but in simpler terms, it's basically just so the code is aware of the last operation clicked, so we can use that to update the number that's currently being updated. Once we run through the actual calculator like we did for our last episode, we ran through each part, it would make much more sense. Now, what comes inside this if statement? Well, what happens is we say current number is equal to current number plus int result label.text. And result label.text is equal to string current number. Now this is basically the same thing that we did in our addition section, where we said if operation is equal to 11, current number equals current number plus integer result label.text. And then the next line was result label.text equals string current number. And next, after saying this else, we're going to add else if operation is equal to 12. Like I just mentioned, we need to add each operation, and 12 is the tag for subtraction. So now that we've already assigned a value to current number when the counter is 0 and subtraction is clicked, now we can actually go through this part and know for a fact that it will have a value once we go through it. So right here, we will say current number is equal to current number minus integer result label.text. And again, same thing. Now we need to actually apply that current number into our text. So we say result label.text, accessing the text method, equals string, which converts the number into a string in letter form, of current number in parentheses. Now, one last thing we need to do before we go through this, like we did in our last operation, we need to make sure counter is incremented. Now in this one, like I said, I took a bit of a different approach. So I actually added the counter at the bottom. Didn't make much of a difference. And obviously we need to say operation used is true. And again, operation is equal to tag, which will be used whenever we go to our next operation, and we can use that to update our current numbers so the calculator flows like a normal calculator would. Okay, and our one last step, like we were mentioning earlier, would be to add the operation conditional for the subtraction operation. So what I mean by that is right here, we need to add an else if, whoops, wrong side. Right on here, we can add an else if operation is equal to 12. And over here, this is to check if the last operation clicked was subtraction. So what we would do, we do the same thing that we did down here when we said that. Just look for that. We just take this block of code, and we can go right back here. We can copy and paste it. This might not be the most efficient way, but I'm not an expert at coding myself, so this was what I came up with. Now finally, let's run through this and hopefully clarify anything that we're confused on, and we can go through each line of code, what it's doing, and how the calculator will be working. Like we do usually, let's go through what happens in our calculator and what block of code corresponds to it. So right now, we have nothing on our screen. We can click maybe the number 5, and we've already went through how the number pad works. It replaces the 0, since operation used is true at the start. Operation used is now false, and result label is now 5. Next, we can try to click maybe plus, and of course nothing will happen right now because it says tag is equal to 11, which it was of the addition button, and operation used is equal to false. And it is false since we just assigned it to false from the number pad. Next, it says if counter is equal to 0, operation is equal to tag, and counter is equal to 0 since it was our first time clicking in operation in our equation. And this means that operation is now equal to tag, which means operation is 11. Now the counter increments by 1, and it checks if operation was equal to 11, which it is since it was assigned since counter was 0. And it goes through current number. It says current number is itself plus whatever's on the screen. So we clicked 5. Earlier it was 0. 0 plus 5 makes it 5, and that's why the number has not changed on the screen when we click an operation for the first time. And it won't go through this else if since we didn't click operation with the tag of 12. Now operation used is true, and operation is equal to tag, meaning that we just clicked addition. Now operation is still 11. It won't go through this since we didn't click any subtraction yet. Now we can maybe click 6. And now we see that it goes through here, replaces the number since operation used is true, since it was declared at the end. And it sees that it was true, so it goes through here. It says operation used is false now, and it replaces the text on screen. So now we have a 6 on the screen. Now if I click the minus, this will be our first time clicking the subtraction button and seeing how the functionality works. Now we can click subtract and it updates to 11. Now what happens here? Of course, it goes through here. It accesses the tag to whatever we clicked, and it sees that the tag was not 11. Since the subtraction button has a tag of 12, it actually ignores this whole block and it goes through this block right here. If tag is equal to 12 and operation used is false. Operation used is false since we just assigned it right here in our number pad. And now we can go through this block. We can see if counter is equal to 0, operation equals tag, current number equals integer result label.text. None of this applies to this specific case since counter is not equal to 0. We already clicked our addition button earlier, so it won't actually apply. So what it will do, it will go through this else statement and it will check about the operation. Now, this is why these are necessary. It looks if operation is equal to 11. Operation is equal to 11 because last time we clicked the addition button, it went through the whole block and at the very end, it assigned tag to operation, meaning that operation is still 11. Nothing has changed since then. It goes through here and it sees that it needs to take current number and it needs to add whatever's on the screen to it. So basically, what happened was it took 5, since 5 was our current number earlier, since that was the number we clicked and that's what it got assigned to. It took 5 and it basically says 5 is equal to 5 plus whatever's on the screen. Now, what was on the screen right before this 11? The 6, because we just clicked that. And then it actually already went through this code within a split second without us even realizing. So basically, this is the process that it took. It took the 5 and it added basically 6 to it since 6 was what we clicked and what was on the screen at the time. And 5 plus 6 is 11. So it took that current number, turned it into a string, and put it in our result label. That's right here. This is why the operation matters, because like I said, it takes the last operation you used and it uses that to provide an updated result after. And next, it says counter increments by 1. Same thing, operation used is true and operation is equal to tag. Now I can maybe subtract and I can click 3. And we already know how the number pad works, so that's not a problem. It updates the number. It had 11. I clicked minus and then I clicked 3. And now when I click another operation from addition or subtraction, let's say subtraction, it updates to 8. So what happened again? It basically went through here. It sees I did not click the addition since the tag is not equal to 11. The tag is 12 since I clicked the subtraction button. Now I go through tag is equal to 12 and operation used is false, which is true because it assigns operation used to false from here. This number pad goes through here. It sees that the counter is not 0. I think right now it should be at 2. And it goes through this else statement like it did in the last run. It checks if operation is equal to 11, and it's not. Right now operation is actually 12 since the last operation we clicked was also subtraction, which also has a tag of 12. So it ignores this little block. It goes through this else if statement. Else if operation is equal to 12. It takes current number. And what is current number right now? Current number is actually 11. And 11 minus the number that was on the screen before we actually clicked another operation. So what was the number on the screen? That was 3, the number that we clicked. It basically says 11 minus 3 is now the value of current number, which is 8. And then it takes that current number, puts it in the result label, and that's why we see it on the screen. Now I can continue doing this process. Many times, as you can see. Minus 5 minus 10 plus 100 plus 62 minus 51 plus. And as you can see, it works perfectly fine. Right now, we cannot use our equal sign since we don't have any functionality towards it. but that will come at the very end. I do want to run through one more case where we have the counter equal to 0 when we go through subtraction. So let's check that out. There's one last line to add right here. You must say result label.text is equal to string current number. Now our calculator is ready to be used. I wanted to go through how the calculator would work if the counter was 0 and we click the subtraction button. So let's try that out. We can start by clicking the number 9, and when we click the subtraction button, we already know it's going to go through the function, store the tag. The tag will be 12 and operation used will be false, since operation used is assigned to false when we click our numbers in our number pad. And it will go through this block and it will see that counter is 0 since we have not clicked any other operation yet. And it takes tag, which is 12 right now, and it stores it in operation. The next step is that it takes current number, and current number is equal to the number on the screen, so that basically means current number right now is 9. We do this because if we were to directly jump to this line and say current number is equal to current number minus integer result label.text, the problem with that is it would take current number, which starts off as 0, and it would take whatever's on the screen, which is 9, and it would take away a positive 9 from 0, leading you in the negatives. Therefore, we have to assign it to some proper value ahead of time. And then the result label.text is equal to string current number, basically saying print that current number on the screen. And it skips over this else since that doesn't apply in the first time, since it's an if or else. You do one or the other. Since it already went through here, it skips over and it goes to this. And that's why I was having some issues, because I had this within the else statement. That's why it wasn't actually going through this. It wasn't assigning operation used to true, and the number kept appending. So that just shows that the order of your code is actually very important. So the counter is incremented, meaning that this will not happen in our next run once we go through another run through this function. And now the operation used is true, and the operation is equal to tag, meaning that operation is still equal to 12. Now we already clicked minus, we can click 6 next. We already know how it will print. And if we click, let's say, the adding button, it updates to 3. And that's because it goes through add. It sees that the counter is not equal to 0, increments the counter. If the operation is equal to 11, which it's not, the operation is equal to 12, since operation is from the last operation clicked. And it takes current number, which was 9, and it subtracted the number on the screen from it, which was 6. And that led to 3. And that 3 was then put into our result label. Thanks for watching, everyone. Please like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below. I'll see you next time.